And this was the first job I came to, Marquis Estate in Dalston. This was the place where I found out what earthing was. Up there, I used to work on that when it was a building site, nothing like that. And honest, it still sickens me to this day. I should have given him a right hand up, Bacardi or something like that. I would down it quick because I couldn't take the taste. And obviously, I got pissed, I got drunk. When I first come to this country, I used to live at this address here. It's the one after the bushes. Yeah, number 14. 14 Islington Park Street, yeah. Lived in various addresses round in Islington, because in those days, in the 60s, you used to just rent a room. And my dad, stepmom and stepsister lived in so many. I remember we lived in a house just across the road there. Lived in so many places until we settled on Offord Road. So that's my primary school, Thornhill School. That's the school I used to go to. So that's the school I used to go to, Ivy Grove. It's completely different now. But when I first came here in, was it 68 or something? I can't remember, but it was a brand new school. It was all sort of granite and concrete sort of thing. But that's been completely knocked down and rebuilt. So that was my secondary school. So when I was leaving school, I didn't have a clue what I wanted to do. I heard someone say they're going to be a photographer. So I thought, yeah, I'll do that. I'll be a photographer. But then I heard friends, more than one, say they're going to be electrician. So I thought, okay then, I'll be electrician. I just copied what I heard people talking about. Didn't have a clue what an electrician done. So anyway, I went to the careers officer. They sent us for tests. We had to go for tests. I went to the LEB, the GPO, which is British Telecom now, to do a test. It's just basic arithmetic and English. Any job I had to take a test for, I didn't get it. I think my highest grade was CSE grade 3 in history, because I quite like history. Okay, so anyway, when I found that I couldn't get anywhere with the electric business, I started trying with this heating and ventilating thing. And I actually went to a job. It was in, I think the address was in Totteridge. I lived in Dalston at the time. Never heard of these places before. Got on the bus, I got there anyway, and I think it was the guy's house. Went in there for an interview, and it was during the summer, because you've left school in the summer, and I used to suffer with hay fever. So I got to this geezer's house, and he started interviewing me, and all of a sudden, I started sneezing, and sorry, but snot was coming out my nose. And I'm 16 at the time, and that guy who was interviewing, he looked at me with disgust, he looked at me, I didn't have any tissue with me, and obviously I didn't get that job. This is Ballspon Road. I used to live in these flats on the left-hand side. And that telephone box there, that was quite important to me, because I used to live over there and I used to get all my 2Ps and come down there and go through the yellow pages, phoning up all electrical firms, heating and ventilating firms to try and get a job. I weren't successful. It was coming now to about October time and I hadn't got a job. Remember, I left in July, is it? Went back to smoke to the careers officer, and he sent me to a job in a factory. They made aircraft materials, that's what it's called, down King's Cross, called aircraft materials. So, and it was metalwork basically. It was a nightmare. I was 17 now, because September had gone. You get in there, and all I used to do was file metal. Because remember that October, I used to go in at the dark, I used to get up early, and I used to be coming home in the dark. So you didn't see much daylight. All the day in the factory, it was terrible. It was like my worst nightmare. You used to get 15 minutes break, and you'd have to stand by your bench, and they come around with a cart with one of those big urns full of tea and some cakes. And then lunchtime, you'd get half an hour. I remember this guy there, I think it was Christmas, we went down the pub or something, and he used to drink Guinness and tomato juice. Funny thing that I remember. Anyway, I was working there, and I went back to the careers officer. I said, mate, I can't take this. This is going to drive me mad. There's no way I can work in there. Because when I left school, I said I wanted to get a job where you're traveling around. I wanted to get a trade, buy a Land Rover, and drive around the world. That's what I said I wanted to do. So working in a place like that drove me mad. After working in that factory, and I went back to my careers officer saying I couldn't take it. He sent me for an interview, and I got a job with this company called Pinch & Waltons. And this was the first job I came to Islington Estate in Dalston. When I came here, it was all mud, scaffolding, and these blocks were being built. From what I remember, there were some big trenches with all pyros down there, because this was a pyro job. And it was culture shock, because I came here in fleers, jacket, fleers, and a t-shirt like I was going to party, because I didn't know what an electrician done. Oh, the man, they must have been laughing. I'm sure that block was whatever, because I remember going up there or something like that. And the charge hand here, it was a charge hand, his name was Bill, and he used to do ballroom dancing as a hobby. And the reason why I know that is there's this guy, I think he was either St. Lucian or Dominican, in his 40s, and he was a bit of a drinker, but he was a top electrician. Like most of them guys that come from the West Indies of a certain age were really good sparkies. When I used to see him run the pyros, make them off and all that, it was really good. But he was a drinker, and he used to have a go at the charge hand all the time, calling him Dancer Bill, telling me all kind of derogatory stories about the guy and taking mickey out of him behind his back anyway. And they didn't get on. You could sense the tension. They didn't get on, but I could understand it, because the geezer's just doing his job, and you got this geezer taking the mickey. And one thing I remember about him, he used to drink brandy and barley wine, and his hangout place was Finsbury Park Tavern. And anyone who knows about Finsbury Park Tavern in the 70s, well, you know what sort of place it was, and that's where he used to hang out. This was the place where I found out what earthing was, because I remember we were working in the blocks, and once you run the pyros in and it's all screwed and stuff, you have to go around and test them. So then, because pyro is something that can be affected by damp. Well, you just got two cores, and they're not identified. So you have to identify the live and the neutral. All you've got is the black neoprene. When you make them off, you put the black neoprene on it. So then you have to measure it out to find out and make one of them live and one neutral. So how they used to do that, you would put one of the cores onto the sheath of the cable or onto the box that it was made off to, and the guy would put his tester on one of the cores and attach to the core of the sheath of the cable or the box, so he can get a continuity reading. And so this guy was in the next room and I was in the other room, and he goes, "Put it down to earth, Del." So I'm pointing the thing down to earth. I've got the core and I'm pointing it down to earth. And he goes, "Oh, I can't get a reading, man." And he goes, "You sure you're putting it down to earth?" I said, yeah, I'm putting it down to earth. So I'm pointing it down to earth now. And what must have happened, it must have accidentally touched the box. And he got a reading and goes, "Yeah, that's it, Del, that's it, it's all good." So that's how I found out what earth was, accidentally. Oh, that was funny. I can't remember how long I was here until I left here and went down to Petticoat Lane, where we were going to go to next. So we're in Petticoat Lane Market, and that estate there, up there, I used to work on that when it was a building site, nothing like that. And I must have been there for a long time, because we used to come in the market every day. I knew this place like the back of my hand. This was in 73. I'm not 100% sure, but I think after I finished from Ollie Street, they moved me to this estate, I think, and like I said, it was a building site. And that tower block there, I've got an interesting story about that. Now, on this estate, they done it back in the day to build the floors. Like, you got the ground floor, and then the first floor now, they used to put up acros and put ply shuttering across, and then that now is going to be the ceiling of the ground floor, or the ceiling of the first floor, whatever. So the ceiling of the ground floor is going to be the flooring for the first floor, and then you got the ceiling for the first floor, etc. So now you're on the ceiling for the first floor, you got to put the lighting in. So what they used to do is draw the light, the circuit out on the shuttering, and then you'd have to run the conduit. You'd run the conduit Like you come to your lighting point, go along to the next lighting point, and then you shoot off to where the switch is going to come down. And this is on the shutter. And then they put some steels down. They build this sort of cage of steel. The steel fixtures would do that. So when you come to the actual lighting point, you've got to put your beezer box on it, right? So to keep the beezer box in place, because when they pour the concrete, they put this sort of vibrating thing in there to mix the concrete around it or whatever. So to ensure that it doesn't move, what you would do, you'd put 3 6-inch nails and you use some wire to tie across the 6-inch nails, and that keeps the box in place. It doesn't move. And I think they put some oil on the shuttering so that once the concrete is poured and dried, they come down, release the acros and drop the shuttering, okay? So then you look up in the ceiling, you see the beezer box, then you come over here where the switch is going to be and you see a bit of conduit, because you've done a right angle, just a bit of conduit sticking out with a thread on it. So that's where they're going to build a wall, and then when they've built the wall, you just screw a bit of your metal conduit down and come down to your switch. So when they drop the shuttering, you've got 3 6-inch nails at each lighting point. They don't do it like that now, but if they did nowadays, you just get an angle grinder, right, and get rid of it. But what we had to do in those days, you had to actually physically break it off. So what you'd have to do, you get a bit of conduit, hammer it, flatten one end down, then you hammer it over the nail so it fits tight around the nail, and then you go like this until you broke it off. 3 of them. So see that block there? This is how I remember it. The foreman here, I didn't like the geezer, and he didn't like me. I was only 18, so you got no chat. I'll tell you what he done once. So this is all conduit. I think it was that block there. Let's go around a bit. It was this block further right around the corner near the market, right? We was up there, I was working with this guy called Harry. He was a nice bloke. He was about 23. I was 18 at the time. And he was my sparky teaching me. We used to do conduit. So the foreman came up and we was doing it. So I don't know if he wanted to show off, oh, I'll show you how to do conduit. Couldn't stand this geezer. And when you're doing conduit, your hands get quite messy. I had my donkey jacket on, which the company gives you, and my overalls, right? So the geezer's come up, done the conduit. No one's asked him to do it. He's just showing himself off. And his hand's all dirty and he looks at me and goes, oh, I've got more. You know what the geezer done? I'm standing, say like that, I'm standing like this. He comes like this and he wipes his hand on me like this. Ah, honest. It still sickens me to this day. I should have given him a right hander, but obviously I can't afford to lose my job or whatever, but you know, and that just set the pattern. And what he did, I had to break those nails off. It seemed like forever in this block here. I had to go around and break. Can you imagine? Every lighting point, there's 3 6-inch nails. And I was on that for, oh, it was so long. Anyway, I met my mate, Tony Shillingford, who I haven't seen for years. He was about the same age as me, 18, but he was good. He was really brilliant. I think he might have been in it a year before me. This is where I come from the other side, so I'm feeling all sweet. Only been in the trade couple weeks, couple months or whatever, and I'm boasting, making that I know things. So it was me, him, and another apprentice, and we was talking. I said, yeah, man, I've been doing wiring, pyro, singles, you know, with 1.5, 2.5, 3.5, and the other guy done a little sniggle, but Tony didn't. Tony just, later on, he took me over, goes, yeah, Del, there's no 3.5, it's just 1.5, 2.5, 4 mil, 6 mil. So never boast unless you know what you're talking about. On this site also, Christmas time, I mean, look, I'm just a youth, I've just left school and I'm not a drinker, I don't drink. So anyway, what they used to do, there used to be a cafe around the corner, I can't remember if it's still there now. They go there and they say, what they say, line their stomach. They have a big breakfast because it's going to be drinking for the rest of the day. They're going to go to this pub, to that pub. And in those days, Christmas time was quite merry, you know. I go and follow them, innit, but I'm going to drink. I didn't like I've never liked the taste of drink. So if I got something like, say, Bacardi or something like that, I would down it quick because I couldn't take the taste. And obviously, I got pissed, I got drunk. And I lived in Islington, and this is in Liverpool Street. Luckily enough, one of the guys, an apprentice, lived up my way, and he took me home, make sure I got home safely. And you know what? That was the first time I was drunk, and I was drunk another time at a party, and I said, never again, that's it, I'm finished drinking. And that was in 1973, and I never drunk since. And this is where I learned to do conduit, because what happens as well, once the floor is built, so you've got the ceiling where you've put your conduit into the slab, and then you have to drop down to the switches, and then this floor now, you have to run your conduits to the socket, to the cooker. So I've done a load of conduit on this. And I'll tell you something else, job and knock, which is a thing in the trade in those days. I don't know if they do it nowadays. You come in on a Saturday, everybody wants to leave by 1 o'clock. Job and knock, tube that flat out and you can go. And I tell you, when you go to wire some of these flats, if you work for the council and you go around and try to rewire some of these flats, you can't do it because the conduit weren't put in properly because of that job and knock business. People rushing to do the job and not doing it properly. Oh, I'll tell you another thing that I remember. What we used to do, this was bad, because remember, you got all scaffolding, and at the side road, you had the boarding, yeah? And what we used to do as apprentices, mess about, we get a bit of free time. We used to go up on the scaffolding, one would be down here, you got all boarding here, yeah? And a couple of us might be up on the scaffold looking over, and maybe a woman or a geezer be coming by. We'd be looking down at the bloke or the woman, and we can look back and say, right, he's coming. We say now, and he'd have some big rock and fight against the wood. The people used to jump out of their skin. That's not good, that's terrible. By the way, I was never the one throwing the rock. I was just there watching. Like I said, I worked all over the place. I remember worked on Brompton Hospital in Chelsea. That's where I met made some friends for life actually, like Fitzy, my good mate Fitzroy. And that was quite funny because that was in the early 70s when you had the miners' strike, right? And when you had the miners' strike, there was a lot of things that were short for a little while, like bread and all that. I remember the foreman on this site, I remember once he came in one morning with about 9 or 10 loaves of bread. He come in one morning and he goes, oh, I don't know if I'm panic buying, Del. He's got 9 loaves of bread and he doesn't know whether he's panic buying, right? That was in Brompton Hospital in Chelsea, right? I remember another site that I worked on way up in North London somewhere. It was a big house, but I can't remember if they were turning it into offices or whatever. But there was a guy there and he was a labourer. And this guy, he was the best chaser I've ever come across. Give him a Kango. If you want something, a box put in the wall, he would chase it immaculately. He was brilliant. That's when he was sober. But some days he'd come in and the geezer would be blind drunk. Can't do any work. But I don't know, they didn't get rid of him. I suppose nowadays you'd probably get the sack or something, but they didn't get rid of him because he was a brilliant labourer. I also remember Sparky came on there, and when you open up his toolbox, he didn't have much tools, he had beer in his toolbox. And I remember another Sparky, a lot of conduit work on this job, and he didn't have many tools. And I was an apprentice at the time, and I can remember him trying to fix the metal box, trying to drill through the metal box, and the drill was on the hammer. He's a qualified electrician, or supposedly, but obviously he wasn't, because he was trying to hammer using I don't know if he had a metal drill bit or a masonry bit in there, but he was trying to drill metal, and it was on hammer. And he was going like that. He obviously didn't know what he was doing. Ridiculous. That was a good site because there's lots of apprentices, and I made some good friends that I even know now. And that was in the 70s. Right. So as I said, I started off at the Holly Street job. Then I went down to the one at Petticoat Lane. Then I went to quite lots of other jobs. Battersea, Hounslow, Acton. I remember Acton was a job centre, and I don't know if that company had a contract to do job centres, because I think I worked in quite a few job centres when they were being built. But most of the jobs I'd done were council estates. But the thing is, what I think either the architecture or the tradesmen were really bad in the 70s, because a lot of these blocks, these estates that I worked on, have been partially knocked down and rebuilt, or even knocked down completely and rebuilt. I mean, my school, Highbury Grove, that was built in the 60s. And that's been completely knocked down and rebuilt. Because look at some of these estates, like the Peabody Trust estates, and those are old buildings from 1901 or something like that. And they're still standing big and strong. The most they do is refurb the insides. Like this estate now that we're going to go on is one that I worked when I was an apprentice, and I came to this place. So let's go out there and have a look. So when I came to this job, it was just being built, scaffolding and stuff like that, yeah? And whenever I came past here, right, NA, I always remember this. I'm not 100% sure, but I don't know if part of this has been knocked down, because there's a lamppost on the front, and it was a big lamppost, and I actually helped the Sparky put it up. So anytime I used to come across here with your dad or anybody, I used to say, you see that lamppost? I put that up in 1970, whatever. You know something, Anne? I've got a feeling that was the lamppost. Yeah, this lamppost here. But I'm not saying that is the same lamppost. Whenever I came past, I always used to say I was proud of it. You know, I helped put that lamppost up. I remember me and the Sparky getting it up and wiring it and all that. This is Green Lanes, by the way. In those days, like I said, I was only young. It was like coming on a big building site, and it was like, you know, amazing. It was like, oh my God. We're at Arness Grove now. I know it was one of these buildings we were working. I seem to remember this building here. We used to done some work in. I remember there's some greens over there where we used to play football at lunchtime or something like that. Let's go and have it. I remember the Sparky I was working with, he would have this mass of wires. And I used to be like confused, saying, oh my God, how does he know which wire go? So if you're a young apprentice and you see that, the old Sparky pulling all these wires, doing this, doing that, don't worry, it comes eventually. And people say that to me now, how do you know where all them wires go? It's amazing. This building we're coming up to, we're in the West End. I don't know if we can stop. This was in the mid-70s. And this building, they were refurbing it. It was going to be the Jamaican High Commission. It isn't Jamaican High Commission anymore. And it was a big refurb. And I was down here for a while, because I think this was the last job I worked on as an apprentice. And then it was Christmas time, I remember, and they made me redundant. I always used to get made redundant at Christmas. The West End has completely changed. I don't come down here much. I used to practically live in the West End. From what my recollection, this was the last job I worked on as an apprentice. After this, I was a qualified Sparky. I can't remember. I think this was a conduit job, yeah. Yeah, so this used to be the Jamaican High Commission. Yeah, there's the Ritz down there. Green Park tube station is just there next to that. We used to go over Green Park and play football, right, at lunchtime. For some reason, I remember this guy come over there once in his suit and started playing football with us in his suit. The guy went back to work in the estate, but he didn't seem to worry about it. But anyway, yeah, I think this was the last job I done as an apprentice, and then I was out in the big wild world looking for work as a Sparky. So now, old Delroy is a Sparky now, and worked for various firms, right? But I remember I got onto this company called Higgins and Cattle, and there's a job along here, because Buckingham Palace is just there, and there was a job I worked on this road here that I can't remember which building it was, but there was quite a few black electricians. There's about 4 or 5 black guys on here. It wasn't a big job, and the foreman was white, and there was this young guy. I can't remember whether he was an apprentice or a young electrician, but they were both National Front supporters. So there was racial tension on the job. Nothing happened or anything, but I just find it quite funny. It was quite a fun job, actually. Yeah, it was quite a fun job. This is the next site I remember being on. This is Marquis Estate. Yeah, this is Marquis Estate in Islington. And again, when I come here, this was all scaffolding, the blocks going up, all muddy and all that. I think it was either late 77 or early 78. And this place is wired in what they call Oxyflex. It's like it was the new modern twin and earth, but it was rubbish. If you go to certain jobs in London, sort of build that in that time, 77, 78, you'll find it. But they stopped using it after, because it was complete rubbish. The sheathing was rubber, and you had live, neutral and earth, and there's a part in the middle where you nailed it to the wall and you're supposed to be able to rewire it. Yeah, so that was an interesting job. And one thing I remember is the charger here. I don't know if he had Parkinson's or something, but he had the shakes. Because I remember in the site hut, he used to have one of those big metal kettles. And what he would do is put out all the white mugs, make all the tea, and then he'd be pouring it. And he'd be like, he'd be like that. And one thing I do remember is these two guys came down. They were, one was a foreman and one was the official tester. And what it is, that foreman, he was running a job and that job had finished. So they brought him onto this site just to occupy him. So he wasn't here to do work. He was a nice guy actually, really nice bloke. He took a liking to me for some reason. This guy looked like Terry Thomas. And this guy he used to wear a tweed jacket, a bit ruffled, trousers and shoes, like he wasn't here to do work. And the official tester, I can see him now, he had this sort of dark navy blue suit on that he'd probably had since the 50s. And the collar was a bit frayed. But they were both nice people actually. And that guy with the tweed jacket, he took a light, about 2 o'clock he used to say, "Go on Del, you can shoot off now." Yeah, another thing I used to remember, I used to be wiring a flat and then pack up, go home, and when I come back in the morning, at the lighting points and the switches, you'd see NF, someone's come and doored NF on it, National Front. I don't know what that was all about. And another thing, I think Cyril Regis used to work here, and he'd left the year before I come, because I think he used to play for A's, but then he got signed by West Brom, and that was a chap, everybody here was talking about him, you know. From here, I left and went to a job near Ivory Corner, and the official tester, he was on that job, and he was a good bloke. He was trying to teach me testing. So I'll tell you about that when we go up there. This Seaforth Crescent, I don't know if the estate's called Seaforth Crescent, but still late 70s, I've come from Marquis Estate and I'm on this estate now. This estate was done in conduit, and I was working with that guy, the official tester guy in his suit and that guy was a brilliant electrician, old guy, but he was a good electrician, teaching me how to bend conduit and all that, and teaching me how to do testing. And I can remember under here is the garage, and that's where the site hut used to be, the office and that. I think it was a charger or the foreman. His name was Haig, and he was a St. Lucian guy, a Dominican guy. I think he was probably in his 40s, 50s at the time, somewhere up here, and he used to be teaching me testing. He used to go, "Del, you got your R1, you got your R2, and then you do your insulation resistance and all that." And I couldn't take it in. This was in the late 70s, right? You used to have the old wind-up mega. He used to do it with the old wind-up mega, but he knew his stuff because he was like a teacher at college, teaching me how to bend conduit and everything. But the most thing was the testing. I couldn't take it in, to be honest. It's not until the early 2000s, late 90s, when I went on a testing course. But then it all come back from what he used to teach me. That's what I remember about this job. So now, I think it was about, when was it? When was this? 78, yeah? All right, so I've become a sparky now, yeah? And I've worked for various companies, and then I even done a little stint at the Mars bar factory, where that was I got made redundant over Christmas, yeah? And I don't like being out of work, and I heard they were taking on electrical staff down at Mars bar factory in Slough, so got that job. Can't remember how long I was there for. Really boring job. Didn't do much. Really boring. And then in that place you had to be clean shaved, you know? I remember your dad, old Marley, was only about, was he 1 or 2 or something like that? He'd never seen me clean shaved. So when I got clean shaved, picked him up and he looked at me funny and started crying. He didn't recognize me. Anyway, now we're coming up to about, must have been about, early 81. Me and my friend Marlon, we was away for about 2 months, I think. Went to America, and then we went to Jamaica, went back to America, and then came back to England. And we were out of work, right? Because again, I'd got made redundant at Christmas. And one of his friends, an old school friend of ours, Bocky, said, "Why don't you join the council or something? They only do connect sockets. That's how I remember it. He said they only connect sockets and stuff like that, simple work. But like I said to you, when I was in contracting in them days, they said council a bunch of cowboys. But anyway, didn't have nothing to do. And then I had the idea come, we should sign on. So we signed on, but we only done it for the laugh, to be honest. Because I used to leave Cali, meet him at his house. The Dole place was near his house, up the Angel. So we used to go and sign on, have breakfast and go and sign on. I think we'd done it for about a month. Anyway, this suggestion made about the council. So their depot was here, right? And I came here, had an interview, can't even remember what it's all about, got the job. And yeah, this was the depot. And just started working for the council. You used to come down here, get your jobs and go out to work. Then this place changed into the mini Winnie Mandela Centre, and now it's, what's these houses, isn't it, flats or whatever. So I can't remember how long it was here for, but then the council depot moved down to where the Arsenal is now. So we go down there. So the council moved from that location to here, and it's apt. It's kind of apt, you know, NA. No offence, mate, but up here was the rubbish dump where all the Islington refuge went. And look what they've built on it, the Arsenal football ground. No offence, mate, your ground is built on a rubbish dump. Well, not exactly. Where the ground is built is where all the offices and the workshop and where you parked all the vans. And then round here was where the rubbish dump was. So I used to come up here every morning, like everybody else. So I was on the council for 17 years, and in that 17 years I always wanted to leave. Not the council was bad, but it just wasn't for me, to be honest. And you know what as well, NA? Do you remember I was telling you about all those foremen and those foremen who had bad reputation? Well, I eventually became a supervisor, and I had a bad reputation. No one liked me. I don't think I was bad. Maybe I wasn't a good supervisor. But you know, like, being a sparky on the council, after a while, I just got fed up of it, you know? Same thing every day, a lot of running trunking. When you're on the council, pure trunking you're running, right? And there's other departments that you could go to, like person who work on fire alarms. But you could never get on that place because he knew his fire alarms, and if you don't, you can't get on. Anyway, it's all a load of crap anyway. But anyway, there was a supervisor's post come up, and I went for it. And it wasn't a supervisor's post that everybody wanted. That's why I got it, I think. It was to do with fans. It was interesting. Then I left the fan spot and got a supervisor job doing what everybody else was doing. No one liked me. But anyway, it's good to work for the council, but it was never for me. I always wanted to leave. And then eventually, this was 1898, I heard they were giving redundancies or whatever, so I just got it. And I nearly missed out because I didn't even know. I found out by chance that they were offering redundancies. So I just took redundancy and left the council, started Eastway Electrical, driving around in my Vauxhall Astra, okay? So I left the old council. I didn't have no plan, to be honest. I was doing some work, like I said, for a contractor that worked for the council. Because when I was a supervisor, I used to give work to contractors, you know? And when they used to come in, I always say, I wish I was a contractor. I always wanted to be a contractor. Well, not a contractor. Always wanted to work for myself. So, like I said, eventually I left, started up Eastway Electrical, and the rest is history. So, after 17 years on Islington Council, I left and I started Eastway Electrical. That was in '98. Yeah, so I started Eastway Electrical. There was a contractor I used to give work to on Islington Council, and I got a few jobs from him, but it was like working for nothing, to be honest. So that's it. I've left Islington Council, secure job, pension and everything, come out into the big wide world, and I didn't really think it through. But anyway, I started getting job advertising in Yellow Pages and them sort of things. Got an accountant, and it was a struggle, but I got some work. Then eventually the work died down. I wasn't getting loads of work, wasn't making, just surviving. So when it died down, I went on to an agency, and the agency sent me to this place, which is Southwark Council. This is Southwark Council Depot. So the agency sent me down here, yeah? I was working for the council through the agency. I was only here for a few months maybe, and then someone I knew, this contractor, he started working for these people called Candy and Candy, and he got me some work, a couple of flats, luxury flats down in Eaton Square or something. Yeah, Eaton Square. So I left that agency and done that job. Then, when those jobs were completed, it was 2 jobs. I'd done one, and then they got me to do another one. Then I had to start looking for work again. So what I'd done, I got some work. I was getting work, and I then applied to the council as a subcontractor, and that wasn't easy, because it's not easy to get on the council. It's a bit dodgy. Anyway, eventually I got on, and I was working for them from 2003 until about 2014, 15, I think. Yeah, I got quite a bit of work from them, and I was doing other work as well. I didn't work strictly for the council, so I used to come into this depot, pick up job orders, and speak to the supervisors or whatever. Yeah, so I was regular down here. I finally got onto the Southwark Council as a contractor of my own right, yeah, working with them from about 2003, I think, till about, their work dried up about 2014, 2015. So again, work was slack. I wasn't getting much work, so I joined, and now I went to an agency again, and they sent me to a place in Brixton, an estate down in Brixton, and they had a little sort of association down there that ran the estate, and I was working through the agency for them. It was just boring again, not doing much, just really boring, and I thought, oh, that's it, what am I going to do now? Then fortunately, your uncle Omari, he decided that he's gonna help me out. So he got involved, reorganized things, advertising and everything, got me that Square thing to work to get payments, got me that advert with Square, and then he come up with the idea of the YouTube channel. I always got to say, nah, I don't want to do that. I'm always I never want to do stuff, and he pushed me into it, and then he used to come around and do the filming, but he had lots more stuff to do plus his own job, and he wanted me to do the filming. Oh, nah, I don't want to do the film. I can't do it. So I end up filming. Nah, I can't use that Square thing. So I end up using the Square thing, because when he used to come around with me, he used to do it. It's all his idea. I'm just like the puppet or the vessel. I do the filming, and he does all the editing. It's down to him. All this is down to him, really, to be honest. Nice one, Omari. So that's how I ended up being on YouTube. And yeah, it's going good. It's going good. It's going good. Hopefully it'll get better. I'm going to have to retire sometime or other. So that's it. That is the story of Eastway Electrical, Delroy James. I got to be a sparky. Oh yeah, one thing I need to say is, old Marley started working with me. He worked with me lots of time. When he was at school, he'd come out on site with me. But properly was in 2000 on them 2 luxury jobs for Candy and Candy. He made a lot of friends on that site. That's the thing with Marley, yeah. I could be on site, I could be working on a site, same site or same job for a month, and I just get on with, I don't know nothing about the people or anything. Marlon comes on there a couple of days, and he knows everything about the people. He started telling me, yeah, he's a producer, you know that? I said, no, I didn't know that. Whenever he comes on site, and then if I go back there and he's not with me, I say, where's Marlon? What's up to Marlon? People like Marlon. Anyway, thanks to Omari, he's made me a lot better off getting work and all that. A lot of the work is local. I'm never out of work now. So it's all good. Let's hope it keeps going until I retire. So nice one, Omari and Marley. Marley, getting Marlon on board, it'd be good.